I Love You, Anne is a film that was conceived by Richard Senecal. And I Love You, Anne is a popular, very popular film which was released in 2003. It features very popular characters in Haitian society. The first one is Niece Simone, which plays Anne. And then there's Blondie Ferdinand, which plays Linda, Anne's friend. And TonTon Bicha, which is a very decorated comedian. And then there's Antonio Cheramy, which plays Don Kato, which is a very popular artist. I believe he's an artist of the group Brothers Posse. And then it also features Joseph Zeni, who's like part of Compa Creole, which was one of my favorite groups, which later transitioned to Creola. So Joseph Zeni plays Jude, the nemesis of Don Kato, which is played by Antonio Cheramy. Okay. I don't know, this film, when I was looking at their how they made it, the director was thinking about, okay, this is gonna be a popular film because a lot of the actors are very well known in Haitian society. And he was like, you know what, I'm fine with that. He liked that he knew it was gonna be a hit if he executed it right, and it was a big hit. Like, I remember when I Love You, Anne came out, I must have been like in maybe 15 or something in high school. But when it came out, it was very successful. It had really good reviews. What else? It had really good reviews. And when I bought I Love You, Anne, I watched it maybe 100 times. I used to love it. I still do, but it's just, after you watch a film for 3,000 times, it does lose its novelty, right? So then I Love You, Anne is a very popular hit. It was a hit film, and I think Richard Senecal, who directed it, he knew what he was doing, because these actors are very well known and the acting is very good, right? It's very good. It's like, this is not like this is a film like it was like a baby for him. Like, he really took his time to develop the characters. The scenery was very good. The dialogue is good. It's a very good film. Okay, so let's start. So I Love You, Anne is a 2003 Haitian film by Richard Senecal, right? And in it stars TonTon Bicha, who is the father of Anne, Niece Simone as Anne, Antonio Cheramy as Don Kato, who's in the film a member of Brothers Posse, which he is also in real life. And then you have Joseph Zeni Jr., who plays Jude, which is the nemesis of Don Kato, because he loves Anne for himself. He doesn't want Anne and Don Kato to work out, right? And then, just so you guys know, Joseph Zeni is a part of a very popular band, Compa Creole, and he which would disband in 2004 and also become another popular band called Creola, right? I really love Joseph Zeni. I really follow his music. I love his songs, right? Compa Creole songs and Creola songs. And then you have Fresnel La Rosière. This last name is hard, and he plays Père de Milan. And then finally you have Blondie Ferdinand, which plays Linda. Plays Linda, Anne's friend. Now, all these people are very well known, right? And this is a well played out film, and it starts off, the first scene starts off with Niece Simone, Anne, who meets Antonio Cheramy's character in the music store. He's looking for like a type of music, type of CD, reggae or raga music, and that's how they begin to talk in the CD store. And from that they start like flirting, and that's the basis of how their relationship started, right? So she shows him, they find out what, like he was searching for something, like a type of film. They start talking and like flirting, and then she leaves the CD store, and I don't know, for some reason that makes an impression on him, the flirtation, and that's the basis for how they met. And then afterwards, we in the movie you get introduced to TonTon Bicha, which is Anne's, like, he is like a father who is overprotective, like most dads, you guys know. He's overprotective, but he's overprotective to like a fight. It's like he's so overprotective, right? He doesn't want her to go out. He doesn't want her to make certain friends. He doesn't want her to do anything, because Anne, from the film, we see that she's a young lady who I guess she just started to get into her, like, her puberty and stuff like that. I think she's 17 in the film, I think so, but it doesn't mention how old she is. But it keeps saying that she's in school. She just went through like junior high school, so you could think that she's maybe 17, 18, judging from what they're saying in the film. So the second scene goes into her dad talking about how young people of this age, you're not into good music, which is the old Haitian compa, which is like Tropicana, what else, all those classic Roger Cola, all those classic artists. And Anne's trying to tell her dad, you have to get with the times, you know, you can't still be in the past. Times have to move. So that's really the premises of the whole movie, is that her dad, TonTon Bicha, who's played by TonTon Bicha, that's the character he plays in real life. He's a comedian. He can't accept the fact that she's growing up, and that's the whole basis of the film, right? So later on, in that same scene where he's describing the music, how music has changed into really unwholesome music, Anne asks him if she could go to Linda's party. Linda is played by Blonde de Ferdinand, and that's her best friend. And she's trying to ask the dad for permission to get to the party. So then enter Père de Méon, which is like her is like TonTon Bicha's best friend, and he's basically like a second father to Anne. And he's looking at how Anne has grown over the summer, and he's like, whoa, you literally gotten so tall, and you've become such a lovely young lady. So then when Père de Méon settles down, Anne asks TonTon Bicha if she could go to the party, Linda's party. And being the very exaggerated type of person that he is, and he's just extreme in his parenting, he says she's not going because there's nobody to take her there. So then Père de Méon, who's sitting down there, she's like, oh, TonTon Bicha, don't worry, Anne's like a daughter to me, I'll take her. And he's like, look, you're not going still because there's nobody to pick you up from the party. And Père de Méon's like, look, TonTon Bicha, she's my daughter, right? I'll pick her up from the party. And then TonTon Bicha replies, she's not going still because there's nobody to watch her during the whole party. And finally, Père de Méon's like, but you're exaggerating. How can you be this strict? This is too much, you know? And he's like, look, I don't want my daughter around people that's gonna influence her in a negative way. And he's like, look, you know what, she's like, I'll take her, I'll watch over her, and I'll make sure she comes back at 10 p.m. even though the party ends exactly at midnight, right? Which TonTon Bicha said is the devil's hour, right? So from the film you get that he's just very strict, but he's strict to the point it's almost suffocating, right? It's almost suffocating. And then it's almost suffocating. So then Père de Méon takes her to the party, and in the party we meet Inspector Wesley Lesquette, and we meet who's like a police officer in the film. He's like I think he's like like a high-ranking officer, and his friend Detre, that's a hard name to pronounce, played by Joseph Zany, which is part of my favorite band, Compa Creole. I love that band. And in the party, they're talking, and they're just looking at the ladies coming into the party. They're looking at all the well-to-do people that came into the party, and then they're just eyeing the ladies because they're like bachelors, right? They're well-to-do and they're bachelors, and they're eyeing the ladies, and all of a sudden Anne gets into the party, and for some reason she catches Jude Detre's eyes, and he can't keep his eyes off her, and he decides that he's gonna try to woo her. He's asking questions about her around the party. Who is this girl that came in? So now what you need to know about Anne is that she's Linda's friend, who is very well-to-do in the area, but Anne's father, TonTon Bicha, who is very strict. It's like she's Linda's friend, but it's like their friends only hear about Anne because Anne is always under strict lockdown, right? So for Anne to go to the party, when Jude sees her, he's like, Linda, who's this girl, right? Because of how her dad is just so overprotective, she rarely goes out because you know, he's overprotective. So throughout the whole party, Jude is asking people around, who's this girl, because he's he's like, whoa, Anne is, he finds her very attractive, right? So then at the party, Anne gives Linda the gift, her birthday gift, and surprise, Don Kato is there. He's sitting down, and they're like, whoa, it's so nice to meet you. And Linda's like, oh, how did you guys meet? And they say, oh, it was just a chance meeting. And so they begin to talk, and the fact that they get to meet a second chance, and from the way that she slipped away in the morning when they were talking about the CD and their choice of music, and they were flirting, he's like, I'm so glad I saw you. I thought I would never see you again when you slipped out of my fingers, when you slipped away. And then from then on, they begin to solidify their friendship, and it becomes like a romantic relationship, right? Like they begin to become like they really begin to like each other. They decide that they really are starting to have feelings for each other, that it's mutual, right? So throughout the party, they're dancing, they're having a great time, and then I believe it's during this time, I think she sees her and says hello. But anyway, when 10 o'clock comes, Anne is supposed to go home, but on their way home with her and Fils-Aime, Bicha's elder friend, the friend who's like a dad to Anne, something happens to the car where it breaks down en route, right? So then meanwhile, they're showing you clips of TonTon Bicha waiting with his watch, and just completely like a nervous wreck because he wants his daughter home by a certain time, by 10 p.m. and he's waiting, he's wondering what's taking so long. So 2 hours later, like they're trying to fix the car. Surprisingly, Jude and Inspector Wesley Lisquette come, and they come to the rescue, right? They ask, oh, what's wrong? And they say the car is giving troubles. And so the inspector and Jude take the opportunity to tell them, look, you guys can come ride with us. We're gonna safely park your car in a way so that nobody could damage it, and then we'll fix it so that we'll bring it back to you, and so you won't have any troubles in the morning, right? So they really do and Fils-Aime a huge service. So Fils-Aime is like, oh guys, thank you so much. You guys don't know how grateful I am. But the gist that you get during this point is that when they introduce themselves, something about the way that Jude, the well-to-do guy that really likes Anne, he throughout the film, he rubs Fils-Aime the wrong way. He also rubs Anne the wrong way, and there's something about him where it's like he's more about like his own interest than trying to like secure Anne. That he comes off in a way that Fils-Aime doesn't really like, and Anne doesn't like it either, right? He's kind of like too much he's too much on top of you, right? And he doesn't understand boundaries when somebody says no, right? So then they get into the car. Jude guides Fils-Aime into the front because he wants to sit in the back so he could talk to Anne, right? So while he's talking to Anne, he's like it's a staring match, right? And Anne's like, oh, what's wrong? Why do you keep staring at me? Oh, he's like, oh, I found you very attractive. I've been asking about you throughout the whole party, I've been eyeing you the whole party. And she's like, oh, great, and she's trying to like, she's not really responding to the small talk because she's not really into him. She's into Don Kato, right? And then he keeps staring at her. She's like, oh, what's wrong now? And he's like, oh, can we talk? You're here. I'm a young, well-to-do man. You're a young lady. Can we get something going on here, right? I'm a man of many means. Can we get something going on here, right? So he's basically trying to flirt with her, but she's not taking the bait, right? Because she doesn't see him in that way. She doesn't see him in that way, right? So then they get to the destination, and when they get to the destination, Bicha is very angry. He's like, look, I trusted you. I trusted you with my child. You said you'd come at 10 a.m. and it's several hours later, and it's now you're walking in. And then Fils-Aime has to be like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. My car just broke down in the middle of the road, and I had if it wasn't for the inspector and this great upstanding gentleman and his friend Jude, we would have been stuck for many more hours, right? But TonTon Bicha is so angry, and he's like, look, I didn't expect for you to not be this serious, right? Because he just wanted his daughter back. He's very worried, right? So then after they calm them down, the scene ends. The next sequence is that Anne's beginning it seems like she's talking to somebody, and let me see, TonTon Bicha is suspecting that she's with somebody, and that she's met someone, like maybe a suitor or something, like, which is Don Kato, right? Which is his worst nightmare. But he eventually finds out that she is entertaining this stranger, that she's actually entertaining Don Kato. But the thing that you really need to pay attention to this movie is it goes by the old adage of do not judge a book by its cover, right? So in the whole movie, the whole premise of the movie is that Don Kato has dreadlocks, but it's not even like long dreadlocks, it's short dreadlocks, right? But in like Haitian society, especially the times of the dad, TonTon Bicha, that's not acceptable, right? That's not acceptable for your daughter to have to be with a guy who has any long hair. Even if it's just a few centimeters, it's not accepted, let alone having dreadlocks, right? So the whole movie, TonTon Bicha is just judging. He's judging Don Kato. He's a vagabond. He's this and he's that, and he doesn't want to give him a chance. And when he gets introduced to Jude in the next scene, he's like, oh, and why don't you entertain Jude? He's a well-to-do man, right? What meets the eye is that Jude does look well-to-do, right? He does something called Judette Tours, which is like a chain of hotels and like luxury hotels, resorts, I believe. And he's like a high-ranking member of society, and he has a lot of money. But the thing is, what you're gonna figure out later is that he is not a good person, right? So it's the old adage of do not judge a book by its cover. The whole gist that you're getting is that TonTon Bicha has no reason not to like Don Kato other than the way that he looks, right? Because usually when people have long hair, or even when they have dreadlocks, it's seen as you're a vagabond, you're into smoking weed, you're into doing things, especially in Haiti, right? You're into doing drugs, you're into doing things that are just not legal, right? You're just somebody who's not a high-functioning member of society. You're like a vagrant, right? And the thing that you're gonna find out later on is that he's judging and he's judging and he's judging Don Kato, and he's judging him, but he doesn't realize that the person he needs to worry about is this guy named Jude, who does this huge resort. Is that he is not a good person at all. Like, he's involved in a lot of organized crime, and because all he can see is that, oh, he's well-to-do, he's well-to-do, he has money, and he looks like he's dignified, that he could put his daughter in a whole lot of problems, right? And he could get her involved with somebody she does not need to be getting involved with, right? Somebody that's actually somebody who's actually somebody who's actually the real person he needs to worry about, right? So then the next part, I believe, is, so then the scenes keep continuing, and Don Kato keep solidifying that they really care about each other, but their meetings keep getting few and few, as now when TonTon Bicha catches wind that she's with him, she begins to restrict her phone calls, right? So that the only way that she could speak to him is through Linda, like arranging in a way so that she could sneak him into her home, so that it'll seem like it's her speaking to Anne, and then once Anne has the phone, then she'll switch it to Don Kato so that they could have a few moments of talking, right? Okay, so within the film, there's even a point where, like, Jude keeps eyeing Niece Simone's character Anne, and he wants her for himself, right? Because he feels like they would make a great couple, they would make a power couple, right? He's feeling Anne, and he feels like they would make a great couple, and so he could show off, like, so she could be his trophy, you know? And so there's a point where in the middle, let me see, there's a point where Jude finds out that Don Kato she's more interested in Don Kato than him. Don Kato comes into her veranda, the patio, right? The veranda area of her home, and they're just chatting for a few minutes, and TonTon Bicha catches them and runs behind Don Kato with his stick, with his huge, like his stick, and he's trying to hit him with the stick, and he's like, thief, get the thief, and through some misunderstanding, while Jude and Wesley Lesquette is in the area, they begin to run after him, because TonTon Bicha is like, thief, catch the thief, catch the thief, because he's upset that he was in his home, right? And so the inspector run after Don Kato, and Jude pulls out the gun from Lesquette's Inspector Lesquette's belt, and he fires a shot. When he fires a shot, Père Damien, who's in eyeshot, is like, what's going on? So he runs after them, and he says, what's going on here? And when he sees what's actually happened, he takes Don Kato, he goes somewhere safe with Don Kato, and he tells the others to go calm down, right? To go calm down, have a break and calm down, right? When he finds out what the situation was, right? And it is during this time that Père Damien and Don Kato have a heart-to-heart. They're talking, and he's beginning to find out that Don Kato is actually a very good person. He's an educated person. He's in school for ethnology, which is a type of branch of, I think, historianism. I believe ethnology, and then he's actually a very respectable young man, right? And the only reason Père Damien begins to see that TonTon Bicha doesn't like him is just solely the fact that his hair is long and that it's in dreads, which makes him look like he's like a vagabond, right? Like he's a person who's into bad things, right? So then to continue, after that, it becomes much harder for Anne and Don Kato to meet, and there's an arrangement in the middle where there's an arrangement where Anne like tricks TonTon Bicha by having somebody call the house and saying there's somebody broke into his boutique, right? So while TonTon Bicha runs into the boutique because he thinks there's been like a robbery, a break in the boutique, she takes off her full clothes, her going out clothes, and runs into a getaway car of a friend, which has Don Kato in the getaway car, I believe, right? And so this is like a weekend of recess from school. So the whole plan is that Linda and her friends are going to go to Fort Jack, which is a popular trip area in Haiti, like a sightseeing trip area in Haiti. Like a lot of people like to go there for romantic stuff, or like school trips and stuff, to go and sightsee the historical parts of Haiti, right? So then they spend some time together in Fort Jack, and what's going on is Anne's beginning to feel guilty because of the way that she had to meet up with him. She feel like she disrespected her dad, and she's never done something like that before, and she's beginning to regret the relationship because she's like, even though I don't agree with how my dad's acting, how I acted wasn't even any better, right? Sneaking out was not something I do, and she begins to question their relationship. Anyway, TonTon Bicha is on his way to the Fort Jack, and he when he arrives, he is angry, like he wants to hit the guy, right? Because he's like, how dare you like make this whole scenario up, and it ends up in a whole fiasco where he falls down. And it's like, look, I had to go, and they attend to the father, and Don Kato is left all by himself, and it's not clear from this point if they'll continue their relationship, because it looks so bad. The scene looks so bad when he comes in. TonTon Bicha comes in. He's upset, and he's very upset. He falls down, and the friends help TonTon Bicha up. And throughout the whole scene, he's just yelling that he doesn't want his daughter to be with like a non-entity like Don Kato, right? So it's during this point there's a break in the film where you see it's questionable whether they'll ever continue, right, being together, or if the circumstances of him being judged by a lot of members of the parent society and others will it just make their relationship succumb to the judgment, right? So then it is during this time that when when Don Kato goes back to just visit Anne after school, and he's trying to be careful, and he begins to get like he's angry because he's wondering, who is this guy? He gets wind that Gilles likes Anne, and he's upset because he likes Anne that he almost shot him down when TonTon Bicha ran him, was saying that there's a thief, right? So he was wondering, well, like, what is your relationship with this guy that he's willing to like almost shoot me for you? And she's like, I don't know this guy, I've never met him before, only in passing. And he's like, no, but I've heard that he was the one that gave you a lift, and you never mentioned this to me. So things are beginning to break down in this climax of the film, right? Things are beginning to break down. So Gilles, he was in a nearby car. Don Kato leaves. He's upset. So is Anne, and he begins to he's smiling to himself, thinking, oh, their relationship has broken down. Now it's time for me to go in, right? He sees this argument as a point of, look, I'm gonna go zero in because it's not working out. This is my turn to the game is for me now. The ball is in my court. So then it's during this time we go into Jude's office, where he is like he's like an exec of the Jude Tours, which is like a resort hotel, chain of resorts and stuff. And the inspector Wesley Lisquette comes in, and but before that, you see that he's arguing with this lady about how she like there's this person that wants to be employed under him, but you get the feeling that he's just sleazy. He just wants to sleep with the woman, and it ends up in a whole argument between the two of them, right? And so throughout that vibe, and then Inspector Lisquette comes in, and it's like his whole workplace is a place where he's just like being a womanizer, right? You get from this conversation that's about to coming that he's a complete womanizer, and Anne is the first person that he's really truly had feelings for, right? So enter Wesley Lisquette. He sits down, and they begin to talk and chill with each other, and he's beginning to talk about how he has a plan. He has three things going on in this scene. There's three things going on actually. He declares his love for Anne, and that he wants her to be his his woman and eventually his wife. He wants to zero on an Anne. And but Inspector Lisket is very surprised because he's like a womanizer, and he's like, oh, have you fallen for Anne? And he's like, look, she's gonna make me a great, like, me and her, we're gonna look so good together because like she is the person I've been looking for. So he reveals to Inspector Lisket that this is the woman for him, right? And that he will do anything to ensure that she picks him and that they are together, right? So the second thing that happens in this film is scene is very important. He tells the inspector he wants him to get a file on Don Kato, make up a file, right? And make up the file. The file that he's about to make is a file, a false file. He wants to make sure he gets him arrested under false allegations of being a gang that's in the Delma district in Haiti, right? In Haiti, the Delma district has a lot of gangs, and he wants him implicated for crimes that he did not commit, right? So that because he wants, once he's in jail, he wants to zero in on Anne. And the inspector is like, but you know this is illegal, right? And he's like, I want him to be eliminated from the equation, right? So the inspector is like, I don't understand, you want me to kill him or something? He's like, no, I don't want you to kill him, we're not murderers. I want you to put him in jail long enough so that I could zero in on Anne and have her become like have her stay with me, like eventually form a relationship where we get married, right? So then he's like, look, I don't understand, how do you want me to do this? So Jude declares like it's either the inspector is with him or he's against him. And to this, the inspector is like, you know what, we're best friends, so I'm with you. I'm gonna put the file under his name, and we're gonna implicate him from a crime that he did not commit. Like he's been doing something so that he could go to jail under false allegations, right? And the third thing we find out in the scene is that TonTon Bicha and everybody is blinded by Jude having money and having these big resorts, but they don't understand he's a womanizer. He's falsifying things to implicate innocent men. And the third thing, he goes and he shows he's like, oh, come with me, and he shows him a third thing that shows that what kind of person Jude is, right? So in the back, he shows him a file full of like sophisticated computers, right? And in the computers, the inspector's like, I don't understand, what is this? These are and he's like, he begins to explain to them that these computers print out passports, right? But these are like falsified passports that look like identical to the real thing, right? So he's like, at 6,000 per passport, what does this mean to you? He's asking the inspector, what do you think this means to you? And he's like, this means we're gonna get a whole lot of money falsifying these identical passports and giving people that don't deserve the passports the right of way out of Haiti, right? So from this, and once the inspector catches what he's trying to say, he's excited. He's like, these computers are so sophisticated. And it's also in this scene we recognize that he's involved in a crime organization with 2 Haitians who are implicated in jail and 2 Canadians who were implicated in jail. And these 2 Haitians, what they were doing is that they were taking credit cards and like making fake credit cards and doing things with identity theft, right? And these Haitians were caught and they were put in jail. And now he's talking about 2 Canadians now, 2 Canadians who these Canadians are going to come in. One of them is Haitian, so that he knows the country in and out, right? So that when they're falsifying the passports, it will look legitimate, everything they're putting on the passports, right? So then from these scenes we see 3 important factors that Jude is just a really bad guy, right? And that TonTon Bicha and everybody that thinks he's a well-to-do guy just because of his looks and him being well-to-do is so wrong that it's not even funny, right? So from this part you get the gist. The lesson here is don't judge a book by its cover, right? Just because his pants is not like out and he doesn't have like long hair doesn't mean he's not a bad person, right? And I feel like this is how parents get into a bad thing. They're judging someone based on their looks, and they're trying to get their daughter not to marry somebody based on their looks, and meanwhile they're ignoring, they're letting somebody else come in, and just because they look a certain way, they're well-to-do, that person could actually be a very bad person for their child, and they're just letting them have the right of way. and it's because all they're doing is thinking about the judgment of what they're seeing, right? They're not judging the person based on the content of the person's character, right? Okay, so then this is how it happens. So in the middle, Gide, he's in his car and he sees Don Kato down the street, right? And he asks Don Kato to come over him. Don Kato's like, he's wondering, who is this person? Like, why is Gide telling me that, right? So he begins to run, to which Gide begins to take his car and proceed to corner him with the car. So they're in a goose chase with Don Kato running down the street and him going down the street with his car, trying to follow him with the car, trying to essentially, it looks like he's about to kill him, right? Or run him down with the car. And eventually when they get down to a certain point, the inspector comes in a way, and he comes out and he's like, "You gentlemen, what's going on here?" And Don Kato, who believes that he's actually who's a good cop, a good officer, he's like, somebody's been like chasing me, please. And it's here that the inspector takes a cuff and he's like, look, he arrests him, and that's when the false arrest is made, right? And Don Kato doesn't understand what's going on because Gide is the one that was trying to run him down, but the inspector arrested him, right? That's how they get him. And then the next scene is one of the very funny scenes, is when TonTon Bicha is listening to like a song and it's interrupted by like news, and in the news we see Inspector Lisquette saying that Don Kato has been arrested for being a thief, not only a thief, but for doing crimes, organized crimes, and being part of a very notorious gang in the Delma district area of Port-au-Prince, right? So then TonTon Bicha is scared out of his mind. He's like, oh my God, you've brought shame to this family. And he's like, you've brought so much shame to this family with this guy, and now my name is gonna go through the mud, right? So then Gide comes in and it's a whole thing, and long story short, it is during this time of the story that Pedimel comes in, and Gide comes in at the same time. And Gide, okay, before Pedimel comes in, Gide comes in and he has a surprise for Anne, right? He declares in this scene when TonTon Bicha gets to get him some cold drink that he declares his undying love for Anne, and he says, I have something I have to show you. So Anne is not buying it. He's like, man, I know you had something to do with the guy getting arrested, and he admits to it that he did have a great thing to do with him getting arrested. So long story short, he has a very extravagant gift he wants to give to her, which is like it's a very extravagant gift, right? So it's during this time that Pedimel comes in, and Pedimel sees Gide. He doesn't like Gide, right? He doesn't like what he stands for, especially the fact that he tried to kill Don Kato without any reason. He's beyond disgusted at Gide, and he's not buying the well-to-do crap that TonTon Bicha is so blinded by, right? So Pedimel comes in and he takes Anne away, and Gide is left with TonTon Bicha, who is not pleased that he gave her a huge, extravagant gift, and he just slams the door in Gide's face because he doesn't understand why he would give her daughter this extravagant gift, right? Because she's still a young child. He's like, why are you giving my child this young gift? And Gide's beginning to get under even TonTon Bicha's skin too, because he's like, what does this mean? Why would you give her, like, how long have you known her that you gave her this extravagant gift? Like, what do you want from my daughter and my family, right? And so he slams the door in Gide's face, and it's during this time that Pedimel takes Anne away. And during this time, we see I'm gonna stop here, but it's this time it's revealed that Gide is a person that he's involved in a lot of bad things in the area, a lot of crimes in the area, and that is very possible he could have set up Don Kato, right? So I'm gonna end it here, and what I want you guys to gather here in this film is that don't, as with the old adage, don't judge a book by its cover, because when you judge a book by its cover, it's like you're not seeing the person for who they are. You're judging, you might actually like the book, but because you're judging it for some exterior quality, you actually are the one that's missing out, right? So the question I have for you guys is that can TonTon Bicha ever see past the fact that Don Kato has the the dreadlocks? Can he ever give their relationship a chance? Will Anne and Don Kato work, or will she succumb to G's advances? And will they find out what G's up to, and what will make of Don Kato and Anne's relationship? Will TonTon Bicha ever accept that they want to be in a relationship, or will what happen? Will they succumb to his heavy judgment and his exaggerated him being so strict, right? So can they work out is the question, right? So the thing about this film is that it's highly recommended, because when it came out, it was really I really love this film, right? While watching it again, I did realize why I love it, because it has very funny scenes, it's hilarious, and I think you'll really love this film, right? And one thing why this film gets brownie points is that it has English subtitles, right? Many Haitian films don't have subtitles, which I would say is really bad. It doesn't give, it's really bad that they don't have subtitles, because you don't really understand, you can't follow through. But this film, it came with subtitles, right? Mostly in English, but I think that's a way you could get in other languages. But that's a plus for this film, right? And another plus is it's very funny. And the thing I love about it is that it's a little complex to follow some of the scenes, because it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But once you get like the gist of the film, it's a very enjoyable watch. So this film gets a high recommendation, and I give it an A+, because when it came out, I love this film so much, and I would watch it like almost religiously. So that's my video for today. It has been I Love You, Anne, featuring Simone, TonTon Bicha, and TonTon Bicha, Joseph Zaini Jr. as Gide, and let me see, Antonio Cheramy as Don Kato, the main characters. And that's basically it, you guys. Again, I highly recommend this film. It's a highly recommend this film. And this is it for today's Haitian cinema, right? And the film has this highlight. So then, you guys, that's my video for today. My name is Fils-Aime. Have a great one, you guys. Enjoy your Sunday.